Welcome to the Traitors a Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew, I'm a writer, and I work in unscripted TV development. And this podcast recaps and analyzes every episode of English-speaking versions of The Traitors around the world, in addition to The Traitors India and another couple of strategy shows like Million Dollar Secret and Genius Game. This season of the podcast has been dedicated to Season 4 of The Traitors US. We've recapped and analysed every episode of the season, including that fantastic finale. And today we are discussing the reunion episode. And joining me to do that, of course, is David Bloomberg. David, it's been such a short time since we covered that finale. We're back
Yes.
for the reunion. How are you feeling about this reunion episode?
Let's find out as we go into it. I don't want to spoil anything. I
Okay.
you know, I saw comments by some of the players online before it happened about, oh, this was going to happen and that was going to happen, and then I saw, because I was delayed because we had to do the finale recap. I saw social media comments and I was like, ugh. So I came in prepared for the worst.
Okay.
I'll say
Go
it was
ahead.
not the worst. We'll say that.
I
So
agree.
sometimes it's bad to go in with expectations, like when someone really pumps up a TV show or a movie, and you go in and okay, it was kind of like the Black Banquet. Everybody, people were like, well,
Yeah.
it was so pumped up that there was no way it could live up to expectations. Well,
Yes.
here this was so pumped down that it actually helped. It was such a low bar to clear.
Yes.
So
I felt the same. I
yeah.
was frustrated by some parts,
Mm.
enjoyed a few parts, did not dislike it as much as I did last year. I remember
Yeah.
really having a hard time with that one. So,
Yeah.
we'll get to it. We'll talk about it. By the way, I haven't really properly introduced you, David, in case people don't know who you are. Tell us
If,
all
if
about you.
if people are just tuning in for the reunion, I would be surprised. But there could be one or two who stumble on it on YouTube or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yes, for those who may not know me, I of course have been covering reality TV for over 25 years, and I still continue to this day to cover it on various podcasts and post reality TV videos on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram as at David Bloomberg TV. And it is funny because just recently I've had a couple of people post comments to me in various places like YouTube or even one on Chat BCC. Like, I was discussing something with them, and he was like, well, maybe you're not familiar with the way these shows work. And I was like, you're commenting on my YouTube video without bothering to see who I am. And I know that sounds like egotistical, but shouldn't you at least figure out who you're talking to before you talk down to them? You
Yes,
know?
yes.
So yes, there that does occasionally still happen where people will say that. I'm just like, nah, I don't know anything. You're right.
Yeah.
I who am I've never seen one of these shows before.
Yeah, I just
So
stumbled on here and
yeah,
mouthed off. In
yeah.
case there are any, Love Island stans, Housewife fans who have joined this episode
Hmm.
just to hear our thoughts on this reunion, we may be critical of some of them. We're not hating on them as people. We're
Hmm.
just talking about them
Well, no,
in the
in at least one
context of this
case,
show.
in at least one case, we will be. Yes.
Probably is.
Yeah.
But if we say negative things about Mora, we're just talking about Mora in The Traitors.
Right.
I'm sure she's a savvy businesswoman beyond this. So I'm just putting that out there right now.
Yes.
Before we dive into the reunion and our highlights, I've got a voice note to play. This is from Magiker, and a lot of you listeners know who Magiker is. He's a regular co-host on the pod. He watches all seasons of The Traitors all over the world, far more than I do, knows them all inside out, joins us regularly. He'll be back on the podcast very soon. So, Magiker sent us just, his overall thoughts on the season to kick us off for the reunion. Let's listen to that.
Hello, Trader Podcast. I am listener calling from undisclosed country with slightly unusual accent, which I cannot be bothered to continue doing. Tricked you, it's actually Magiker. Hello, guys. The reason I put on that fascinating, non specific accent is that I wanted to do something to spice up the finale of season 4 of American Traitors because I found it a little bit boring. I know that they tricked you, Matthew, those sneaky editors, by making you think that something different could happen. But I'm sorry, as soon as I just saw how it was going to play out, that Mora was never going to go against Rob, and so I'm afraid I did watch it with the phone in my hand. I wasn't looking at the screen very much because it was so predictable. So I'm afraid I think it ended with a bit of a damp squib. I do think Rob was a great traitor and a great player, so I think he deserved the win, but there were just no surprises. I was just thinking how much cooler would it have been if we'd had some great gamers at the end, not necessarily Survivor Big Brother people, but just people who were playing the game a little bit better. I think it all got a little bit, too predictable, a little bit sleepy, a little bit boring. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm afraid that does make this season one of my least favourites. Can't say I didn't enjoy it because every season of The Traitors is a good season of The Traitors, pretty much. So I did enjoy it, but yeah, first half of the season, too many extremely annoying people. Second half of the season, lots of pretty poor gameplay and people who really didn't know what they were doing. Mora having blind faith and then kind of ruining the whole final bit of the game because she wasn't prepared to consider any alternatives. But what we did have was some very attractive people on screen. And, there are worse things to be looking at. So thanks for that. Looking forward to the civilian season on Peacock or NBC or whatever it is it's going to be. Is it ABC? NBC? David's going to know. American Channel, NBC surely, because that will be interesting to see if we get some normals playing. Let's see how it all pans out. In any case, it's been great fun following the season with you, and I hope you have a great final episode. Catch you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Magiker. Now that I know it's you, obviously I was fooled and confused for the first
Yes,
10
yes,
seconds
of
or
course.
so. Magiker sort of echoing a couple of comments I've seen online actually that I did enjoy the finale. But I understand what
Yeah.
Magiker's saying, and I've seen a few people say, "Man, I knew it was so obvious what was going to happen, and I didn't enjoy it." So I don't know if you
I mean,
can sort of recognize
yeah,
that.
I said it was tense, but it was more tense. I mean, I figured that was going to happen. It was more worry for me than it was anything else. Like, is this season, because kind of the opposite of what Magiker said. To me, it would have ruined the season, or at least a lot of the season, if Mora had suddenly come to her senses. Because then you would still have the clueless faithfuls at the end, but they would have won. And that would have made it like last season.
Right.
Except you wouldn't have even had like better people like Gabby.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand. This is something. So, but also one thing that Magiker said is you didn't have any gamers at the end. That was on purpose, and we discussed that some. Obviously, Magiker couldn't have heard us discuss that when he left that voice. Well, maybe he did because he knew you were. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, it was by intent that there were no good players left. And this is something that I've heard before about Survivor many times. Like, oh, this season is so boring. Oh, you're doing your Angelica Houston again.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, you've got the light across your eyes. People say, oh, this is so boring. They just got into an alliance and then they ran the game. It's like, yeah, they played the game the way it should be played. If you're watching for more entertainment value, Survivor I'm talking about, not necessarily what Magiker was saying, then yes, I understand that. For someone who's watching for strategy, you want to see good strategy. And yes, it was good strategy for Rob to knock out the smarter players early. Did I like seeing Ian and Rob go in like the first 2 episodes? No, I hated it. I still hate it. But I understand why it was done.
Yeah.
and that's something that ends up getting addressed a little bit in the reunion. So it's I see the complaint, but there's a reason that it happened, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And we have already a couple of listener questions about that point and about what Magiker mentioned in terms of the civilian season that's on its
Hmm.
way. Of course, we will address those in another episode of the podcast beyond this. We'll have an episode just dedicated to all of our listener thoughts and questions, which, like I said, are already coming in. So we'll save most of those for then. I may address one at the end of this episode if we have time. Thank you for that, Magiker. That was good fun to hear you as always. I'm sure you'll be back on the pod with us very soon. David, let's go for it with the episode then.
Well,
And
first we're all dressed up
oh,
for it. I mean,
I've not addressed, yes, I've not addressed the obvious that we're dressed in our finest. Look at these secret. I know I'm acting like this is what I normally wear on the podcast.
yeah.
This is the best I could do when I only thought about it, half an hour ago. That I've
I
got
just
some.
figured that was kind of like a shout out to Rob. It kind of looks like,
It is sort
you
of
know,
Rob meets one of the housewives
yeah,
merged together, so
yeah,
it's sort of braces that could look like dungarees, but with gold sequins on them. If you're
yeah,
not
and
watching us on YouTube, you are missing out on
yes,
on what I'm talking of.
and I just brought back the black banquet hat. I know it's not cool to wear your same outfit twice. It's a different outfit. I've got a different shirt and tie on. But the hat was so popular, and I don't have a whole closet full like Mora apparently does.
Yeah, or me, of course.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. So that's why we are wearing our finest, so we could match the fashions of the finale. And that
Hmm.
is actually the first thing I wrote down about this episode was this is just a fashion show, right? Like that's kind of 50% of what this
Yes.
episode is. Which it's funny the this reunion episode. Maybe I should save this till the end. Now I'll say it now. This reunion episode kind of encapsulates the whole season in a way. So it's 50% shade, fancy outfits, people being bitchy to one another, complaining about what franchise they're from,
Hmm.
and 50% chat about the actual show and the actual game. So I thought that sort of neatly
You may
represents
be
the entire season.
you may be high on that 50% actual game.
Yeah,
I
might be being generous there.
yeah.
Uh, at least they talk about things that happened in the castle.
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
Uh, they start off with the traitors, which feels unusual. Normally, I feel like they do it the other way round, and we build up to the finalists come out at the end. But they start off with the five traitors, which feels odd to say, all five of them,
Hmm.
and
I
they're
I like this. I like this better because they're the ones who we actually want to hear from.
yeah,
So
they have the
start
most
with
to
them.
say. Yeah, yeah,
Start with them. And well, actually, I wanted to hear from Ian and Rob. More Rob C. But in general speaking, yes, they're the ones we wanted to hear from. Bring them out. Let's talk to them first. They are the ones the focus should be on.
yeah, yeah. It does make sense. And they're asking Rob, of course, hey, tell us about your
Hmm.
win. How does it feel? Did you tell us about your strategy or whatever. And Rob
Yeah,
is being Rob. As far as I could tell, it's genuine. The sort of, he's
yeah,
quite humble. I'm sure some people online will say it's fake. He's a horrible person. He's
yeah.
pretending to be humble. I don't know. As far as I know, he seems like a nice guy. And he's like, hey, oh, I just got lucky. And sort of downplaying it.
Yeah, which is interesting
And
because by the end he does acknowledge the moves he actually made and talk
yeah,
about them. So I don't know why he said that. I wish he wouldn't have because now we're going to have people commenting like even he admitted that he got lucky and it's like
I,
just
yeah.
you know.
I think,
I know it's
he was
hard. It's
he's trying
it's
to be nice. He's trying to
right.
be like, oh, a nice guy. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I think it actually proves he doesn't hate,
Right.
Lisa and Candace. He's trying to just
Yeah.
be nice and like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, that's just the way it worked out. And Candace immediately can't help herself and is like,
Hmm.
well, this group of faithful need to go to faithful school.
Right.
That's what impacted some of it. And so she sort of is
Yeah.
like, well, I guess you were a good traitor, but also, yes, you're right, you did get lucky. And I'm going to say this throughout this episode. By the way, I have been fairly complimentary, I think, of Candice throughout the podcast season. I've
Hmm.
found her fun to watch. I thought she was okay as a traitor. I didn't have an issue with her. In this reunion episode, I
She's
was really
terrible.
turned off her. I found her really
Yeah.
bitter and just
Well,
annoyed and
ever since he got her out on social media, in interviews, in everything, she has been bitter, bitter and
yeah.
nasty and making accusations, which we'll get to here. And I'm glad they actually, included. And just she has stoked the conspiracy fires. She has stoked the anti-Rob hate. And it's like, God, get over yourself.
Yeah, I thought you could just come on and even if you are Matt, just come on TV and say, "Well done, good job.
That's
Hey,
not
you
a
beat
housewife,
me."
though. Come on.
Yeah, like you just end up making yourself look really petty, and Rob's just
Yeah.
sitting there like, "Oh yeah, got lucky, haha."
Hmm.
I found Candice really tough to watch in this episode, and that's an
Yeah.
understatement.
Yeah.
At some point, they talk about Rob promised he would buy Mora a Birkin bag, and they talk
Yeah.
about it.
Okay.
Oh,
I was really confused about this when I saw a discussion of this online first because people didn't say a Birkin bag, they said a Birkin. And then I just saw these random comments. I mean, I am not at all caught up where I usually am because I've had just days of reality TV all over the place. But uh I temporarily confused it with a Merkin. People who don't know what that is, look it up. So I was trying to figure out why people were saying that Mora was talking to Rob about a Merkin because they didn't say a Birkin bag. A lot of them just said a Birkin. And then eventually I saw Birkin bag and I was like, that's a bag you put your Merkin in? I don't know. So, yes, I was very confused in my short time just seeing snippets on social media. Um, so
I'm glad you figured it
Yes.
out now.
Yes. Now, I still don't know what a Birkin bag is. Apparently, it's something that's ridiculously expensive. Like they said, the
Yeah.
lowest price for one is $10,000. And I'm sorry, is it made out of gold? Is it, I don't understand why you would ever pay that amount
Yeah.
of money for a purse or a bag or something like that.
Yeah, I have written here, Birkin bag costs $10,000. What is the fucking point? Like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Yes, this is foreign to me. Uh I just thought, wow, this is such relatable content we're watching on this Traitors
Yeah.
reunion. Sure. And it
Yeah.
comes up later again when Mora comes out. They move on to Candace for the first time she brings up Colton.
Well, I do want to
There's
say, at least we didn't get much out of Eric, kind of like on the show. We didn't get much out of Eric.
yeah, yeah.
But he seemed okay and just said it took a few days. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah,
That may be the only thing he said the whole time. I'm not sure. I can't remember now if he said anything else. I'll have to see if it comes up in my notes here.
I think I've written one thing about Eric a
Hmm.
little later, and it was fairly inconsequential, I think. Candice, yeah, she moves on to talk about Colton and says to Rob, "Well, you got rid of him because it was helpful to frame me." And I thought, and like,
Yeah, Rob.
what do you want
Yeah,
him to say?
yeah.
Like, do
Rob
you
was
want
like,
an
yeah,
apology?
that was his biggest move, and because it made Rob look like such a faithful. And Candace is like, Colton was useful to you until he was dispensable. And Rob's like, yeah, everyone
Yeah.
was. That's the game. It's like she's leveling these accusations that are simply truths, and like you and I are engaged in a discussion right now with somebody on Instagram who's like, I just want him to admit it. Who cares?
Yeah, it's the conflation again between
Yeah,
your character as a real person and
right.
how you played the game on the
Yeah,
Traitors. Like, yeah, you said it. He played the game, and
yeah,
what? Well, I don't
yeah.
care. So, there's a list. There's throughout the episode there are apparent listener questions. People who've tweeted in, and Andy Cohen
Hmm.
reads them out. And
I
there's a
describe
question.
this listener as some bozo.
Oh God, yeah. What was your most iconic move?
None.
She didn't
Move
have
on.
any.
Yeah,
Like, what do you mean most? That implies there were several. And
yeah.
I
And
don't even
she's
know. She said she's like, oh, I don't know, the
Yeah, she
banquet
said
and
the
the this and
banquet. And I'm like, oh, your most iconic move was the moment you blew your cover and got yourself banished? Yeah, that was iconic. And then her answer was then, oh, well, there's this picture of me in the cage with my sunglasses. Uh, Someone needs to teach this woman what the word iconic actually means.
yeah, I thought, oh, I
'Cause she
don't
has
even
no
remember
clue.
that. Like that, I've not seen that picture. And I'm all over
No.
social media and
Yeah.
Traitors content. I have not seen that image circulating
And
anywhere.
even when you did, you're sitting in a cage with what why is that iconic? There's nothing iconic
Yeah.
about anything that you did on the whole show. She understands the word iconic as much as Michael understands the word commiserate.
Right. She could say like, oh, there's a funny picture. It's
Yeah.
not an iconic move that you
But I
sat in a
mean,
cage with shades on.
that just shows you she had to think about it first of all. And then she came up with these two lousy things. That just
Yeah.
shows you even she can't really defend her claims of being iconic.
Yeah, it's just a bit silly, as I would say.
Yes,
It's just so
in
funny in
both
front of
in both
Rob.
ways. Yes.
Yeah, like you're sitting in front of the guy who just won the whole season as a traitor. For you to pretend you were the iconic one, like
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
daft. They they talk. I mean, the next thing I've got is a mention of the secret traitor. They
Hmm.
sort of revisit that. Donna's here, of course. My I mentioned this on the previous podcast episode. That feels like so long ago, and to me, actually, it just ended up being a dud. Like it really had
Yeah.
no impact, no lasting impact on the season.
I mean, the lasting
Sh
impact was that she gave them short lists that allowed them to get rid of the gamers, which is
yes,
particularly interesting when we find out she watches Big Brother and Survivor and all those. So, were you just picking names of people you knew? Like, I mean, I don't understand. She kept saying she was a fan. She was a fan. And yet she was the one helping the other traders to vote out those very people. So
yeah,
I don't understand what Donna was doing. I but whatever. You know, what I got out of that conversation was that Taylor Swift watched the show. And that
yes,
undoubtedly means she's listening to this podcast. That's
of
what I
course.
got. That's what I got out of it. So hi,
Me
Taylor.
too.
Yeah.
I have written in capital letters, Taylor is a watcher. She loves traitors. Taylor, hi!
Yeah.
Lots of exclamation marks. Yes, clearly listening to us now, of course. So that was fun. Um, what this did make me think of though was it reminded me of something that Donna did put Rob on one of those very first murder shortlists,
Mm.
and a listener somewhere on YouTube or Instagram, I'm really sorry, I've forgotten who sent this comment, mentioned, oh, remember, Rob was on one of those shortlists. I wonder if way back then in episode 1 or 2 or 3, because this is a really probably small point that
Hmm.
none of the players noticed, but that meant that he was one of the last players to come into breakfast that day. I wonder if that made somebody think, oh, he's a faithful. That's why he came in last. And
Oh.
did that put everybody off for a while from Rob? So
It's
maybe
possible,
it
and
worked out
that's
well.
another thing that we didn't bring up in the finale discussion when that issue came up, that question came up. We don't see all the discussions. We've already talked about how there have been no discussions on the show about, oh, there must be a man, there must be a man.
Yeah.
But we believe they probably had those discussions. It would not surprise me if there were also discussions like, well, it can't be them because they came in last.
Yeah.
But the producers don't want to contribute to the meta of
Yeah.
that
You're right.
by airing it and letting other people see it and get it in their minds.
Yeah.
So I think that there probably has been discussion of that and they just cut it out.
Yeah. But well done, listener, who
Yeah.
spotted that and
Yeah.
remembered that from all the way
Mhm.
back then. Good spot. The this is I have written something about Eric here.
Yeah. Yeah.
They briefly ask him about, his golden ears, and he thought he recognized the traitor's
Yeah.
handwriting, and I don't even know what his response was. He just sort
He
of
said
mumbles a
it
little.
just shows that as a faithful, anything can be justified as a clue. And it's like,
Mm, okay.
okay, that's true. That's absolutely true. But it didn't address the fact that he got wrong who laughed, and he was nowhere near right about the handwriting.
Yeah,
So you can justify it as a clue, but he didn't address the part about him sucking in both of those situations.
yeah, yeah. He also claims that he had no idea that Rob turned on Candace and Lisa and could potentially turn on him. He was sort of like, I didn't even think that that could happen to me. Like, it just really baffled me. Maybe it shouldn't have. I just was like, Eric, what were you
Well, yeah,
thinking?
he said Rob made him think it was Lisa and Candace's fault because Rob, I mean, history is told by the victors. And Rob was the only one there. So Rob was,
Yeah.
oh, they turned on me, so I had to get rid of them. And, you know, I mean, Eric didn't know differently. He should have suspected differently,
Yeah, it
but
just seemed so
he
naive
didn't.
that he was like, I
I mean,
didn't
that
for a
describes Eric
moment
right
think
there.
that Rob might
Yeah.
vote for me ever.
Yeah.
Like,
Eric is naive. I think that sums it up right there.
yeah. There's some traitor v traitor infighting again.
Hmm.
Candace and Lisa both come for Rob once more. They think that he didn't need to turn on them when he did.
Yeah.
And his insistence is, no, it was a sinking ship.
Right.
He suggests that, there was heat on them on the way. He just jumped on it. He didn't initiate it. And
Right.
then
Yeah.
Candace brings up this claim that will be addressed later in the episode, a little tease. I was told by Colton that you were feeding him information, and she'll
Yeah.
bring it up when Colton comes out, no pun intended. And they also read they also replay the well, first of all, I'll come back to that. Any thoughts on Candace and Lisa coming for Rob?
I mean, yeah, Rob said, well, I thought that you two would turn on me, especially after I voted for Lisa. And Candace is like, oh, that's projection. We wanted to stay together all the way to the end. Rob's like, no, you'd have turned on me. And Rob is right. There's no way that they were going to stay together. And Andy even noted they mated the longest as an OG trio. So they
Yeah,
really have nothing to complain about in those, at least on the U.S. version.
yeah,
Obviously, everything that we say here is on the U.S. version because they do not presume that anyone has watched any of the others. Um, and yeah, he said too many people suspected Lisa, and yeah, and then Candace says, well, Rob, you just wanted to go to the end by himself. And he's like, well, yeah, but that wasn't my plan. And, so all the people who are like, well, he just needs to admit it. He did. He said, yeah. But they want him to say that was his plan. Well, he said it wasn't his plan. Yes, he was obviously wanting to get rid of them at some point.
right.
But, you know, they made it easy. And, Candace went on about, oh, he lied to them when he said that he'd help support Lisa. And he's like, yeah, I lied. And, and it's like, he understands it's a game called The Traitors, and the other two do not get it, like so many housewives before them.
Yeah, and the argument comes back again a couple of times later in the episode.
Yeah.
So I do have other thoughts, and they replay this clip that I had forgotten about, although a few listeners have mentioned it online. There's a moment where Candace just throws something at Rob in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah, a piece of candy. She grabs a piece of candy and throws it. Yeah, I
Like,
remember it. Yeah.
Jesus, talk about like this could have been such a bigger deal. Like, it's just kind of been brushed away, but like that's really childlike and
Oh,
petty. Like, imagine
I
Rob
mean,
chucked something at Candace. Like, I'd be
I thought
furious.
I thought it was actually kind of funny. She grabs a piece of it was probably one of those British soft chewy candies, that they
I thought it was a
you know.
grape for some reason, but I couldn't see what it was.
I mean, I
I
thought she
mean, it's
grabbed it
funny,
from the
whatever it is.
candy area.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, it could
yeah.
have been a grape. I
I love
thought it
little
was a
snacks.
candy. Yeah, and then in there somewhere, Candace says something about she was trying to preserve herself, and he's like, but you didn't. You ended yourself."
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
yeah,
right. He's right.
yeah. They include this clip from the podcast, the official podcast, Boo,
Hmm.
with with Rob and Bob the drag queen, Boston Rob, that is. And I'm kind of not sure what the point of this is, other than to just advertise the fact that they have a podcast.
I think it
Like,
was mostly. Oh, I didn't. Did they have a finale one? I bet they did. I haven't watched it yet. But it was just to try to stoke the
yeah,
anger. Oh,
it just
look,
felt
she
more of
said
the
these
same.
mean things. Yeah, and so I don't remember even where that came into this discussion. But at some point, yeah, Rob was like, I didn't bring your name up. I wouldn't have if you had joined the bandwagon with me against Lisa. And she's
Yeah.
like, well, you never gave me the opportunity, which she may have a point there. And it hurts to say that because he did pretend to be with both of them and with Lisa until he turned, but she should have seen it coming. She should have just voted for Lisa like he did. And that's, I think, what he means by join the bandwagon. But I think she wanted him to come up to her and say, well, this is what we have to do. And she wasn't going to do it. Again, she just keeps saying, you need to admit that you wanted to win. And it's like, yes, he wanted to win. Get over it. I don't know. You're playing a game. And I understand. And we'll especially get to this with Lisa later. But I understand maybe you didn't care about winning, but he did. So just get over it.
Yeah. And I had a couple of other thoughts on this segment, which is that I'm going to give Lisa a little bit of credit here. I in this little, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, I did notice at least Lisa kind of was just sitting back and laughing at most of it. Like
Right.
Candace was genuinely pissed and keeps calling him a snake. And I also wrote, Candace, get over it. At least eventually Lisa's just like laughing along. I actually don't think she cares that much.
No, I don't
But
think she does, especially with some more things that she says later.
yeah, yeah,
But also, like you mentioned in the last podcast episode, Lisa and Rob have been with each other
yeah,
since
yeah,
then. They've at least filmed one commercial. When they
yeah,
came out, she seemed like happy and fun to be with him, whereas Candace did not. So I
yeah,
think Lisa was there for other reasons, so it didn't really matter.
yeah, yeah,
And whereas Candace just still has this seething rage for Rob that is just preposterous, and he even says at some point, I was better at lying low, and I didn't trust you, which
yeah.
so
Yeah, my lasting impression, my takeaway from this is Candace wasn't and isn't going to listen to anything that Rob says. It's actually just pointless. She just
mhm,
wants to be angry, and she actually doesn't. There are a few moments where she doesn't even let him speak. Quite he's trying to respond calmly.
yeah,
Rob is Rob. He's just sitting back in the chair.
mhm,
And she's kind of just yelling at him eventually. And like I get this is what housewives do in the housewives reunion. It's all about
right,
starting arguments and causing drama and Andy Cohen sitting there rubbing his
mhm,
hands at all the millions of dollars that he's making. But this isn't a housewife reunion. So I'm like, I watch some trash TV. Like, don't get me wrong, I will watch crappy reality TV with people getting into fights and I enjoy it. But that's not what I watch this show for. So I just I'm just not interested in
right.
see people try to make this into that. Like that's not what I'm here for.
Yeah, I mean, it was a clear case of Candace trying to continue her 15 minutes or however many minutes she's now had of fame. I mean, I don't know enough about her outside of here to know that. But yeah, do I really think she believes Rob cheated? Maybe she does. But I think it's more likely she just wants to keep her name in the headlines, which she has.
Yeah.
And it's like, just stop it.
Yeah. And by the way, I'll say something positive about Candice. I've seen a couple of clips of her online singing. Like she can really sing. Like she's
Mhm.
she's an incredible singer. I'm like, Candice, just do that. Just be an amazing singer.
Right.
Like this isn't a good look.
Yeah.
Like she's talented. Like I was really impressed. I mean, not that, my opinion on singing
Mhm.
matters, but I was very impressed with her. So hey, I'm just going to throw that out there for the housewife stands. I recognize she is a singer. The next segment really is when Mora arrives.
Mhm.
So and she comes. They talk about the pinky promise. A listener has assured us it is in the episode. Apparently, someone on YouTube has said,
Yeah.
yeah, because we asked. We said, hey, did we
Right.
both miss it? Apparently, it is in the kitchen right before the end
Mhm.
game, so it's in there, and it
I
just
just
must have been
wasn't sure
quick.
exactly which part it was, but they clarify here it was to vote Eric out. And so, yeah, she's like, you broke it. And he's like, well, no, actually, I kept it because we did vote Eric out,
Yeah.
I agree with him. The wording of the promise is very clear. He never said we will win the game together. He said we will go to the end together, or we will vote out Eric together, or whatever. And because he couldn't have promised to. Well, I mean, he could have, and he could have lied because it's the traitors. But uh, so yeah, I side with him on that, and yes, as we thought, and as we talked about in the finale episode, she just kept waiting for him to say, "Just kidding."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She thought it was a
And
joke.
yeah, and then she's talking about. She came in talking about, "Oh, I'm so dumb. I'm so dumb." She's clearly embarrassed. She says she was embarrassed, and Candace, being the kind, caring person she is, says perhaps it was a lesson in discernment. It's like, oh, shut up, Candace. You're just
Yeah,
literally taking every opportunity to take a dig at Rob while also taking a dig at Mora.
yeah. I found that really patronizing and
Yes.
also a little ironic because I Mora, my impression of Mora is actually she seems okay with it. Like even she admits, yeah,
Right.
I guess you did keep your promise to vote
Mm-hmm.
out Eric. I don't think Mora's mad at Rob anymore. She's like, hey, just buy me my ten
Long
thousand
as she
dollar
gets her
bag and we'll
Merkin
call it
bag,
quits.
you know.
Yeah, her yeah, her American Birkin, and
Yeah.
sounds different in my accent. And yeah, even here, Candace keeps interrupting, and I'm like, stop! Like your moment's done now. Mora's here,
Yeah.
and I th the reason I was saying it was ironic was because Candace is saying tomorrow, well, I've got a lesson that you need to learn. And I thought, actually, Candace, maybe you should learn the lesson from Mora to
Mm-hmm.
just get over it,
Right.
admit Rob played well. You can say, like, oh man, I was so mad at the time, but hey, it doesn't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But she's kind of just not willing to let it go. There's another listener question about what kind of an obvious question. Why did Mora trust Rob so easily?
Yeah.
And it's funny because Donna steps in to rightly point out, well, it wasn't just Mora, it was everyone.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, this was Donna's biggest contribution to the entire show was for her to interject here and say it was everyone. It was the whole freaking house. And I was like, yes, that's right. They all fell for Rob.
yeah,
Mora was just the one he chose to keep to the end.
yeah, yeah. And of course, as they go, they do talk more about the connection between Mora and Rob. But in fact, this is where
Yes,
this is
this
one of
was
the moments
annoying.
I was just sort
Yes.
of eye rolling. Andy Cohen,
Yeah.
being Andy Cohen, says, "Let's talk about the elephant in the room. There's an undeniable chemistry between you."
Yeah.
And
And it's
I
like there's
thought,
there's no
was that the
elephant in the
elephant in
room.
the room?
Yeah,
Like,
it's not there.
I don't give a
You're
shit
making
about
it up.
this.
Yeah, it's an invisible elephant in the room.
Literally hasn't crossed my
And
mind one time.
yeah, the funniest thing to come out of this, the only good thing to come out of this was when they were talking about it and Mora brings up the Birkin and
I
someone
know
in
what
the
you're gonna
waiting area says, he won't even buy a shirt.
say. I know I couldn't see who it was because I was watching it on a tiny
Yeah.
screen, so maybe it was Portia, but
Yeah. I
cracked up laughing at that. That was
yes.
perfect.
Yes.
And they insist they're friends, but Rob's
Hmm.
like, yeah, well, we did flirt a little, don't really care, and he then
Right.
confirms actually he has a girlfriend. Oh my God, I'm kidding. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
So they talk about that for a couple of minutes. And then it's time for the skating twins. Hooray! Tara and Johnny. Johnny. I was going to say Johnny join us. Johnny joins us from Milan. So I guess they
Via
could have
Zoom,
been the
yes, or
winners and
whatever.
just done it
Yes.
this way. Them not being in the room didn't make a
Yeah.
difference. And they chat about, yeah, we figured out the truth all too late. And
Well, no,
there's
first Andy says, so I need to slam Andy here because he says it was fun watching them wander through the game, but then right at the end when it really counted, they figured it out. Um, no, Andy, it didn't
not when it
really count
counted.
then. That is why Rob won. Try to keep up here. It's if it really
Yeah,
counted, they'd be the winners,
right.
but
So I
it
think they
didn't.
kind of correct him. They're like, well, I guess it was too late by that point.
Yeah.
And there's they focus on Tara and how, she really thought she had Mora on side at the end. And
Hmm.
this again is where Mora keeps calling herself dumb. She's like, "Oh, I'm so
Right.
dumb." And actually, I did feel bad for her. I thought, you know what? She doesn't need to berate herself. Yeah, she was dumb in the game.
Right.
She's not dumb all the time. So I kind of felt a little bad
And
that she
that's
keeps saying this.
the thing we talked about, or at least I mentioned briefly in the finale recap, is once you get to that point, you need to choose, are you switching horses midstream?
Mm,
Are you really going to trust Rob for 99.9% of the game and then at the very end jump over and go with Tara and Johnny,
yeah,
who
yeah,
on their own did some pretty suspicious things?
yeah,
It's hard. It on a human being level, no matter who you are. It is. We see this in the real world all the time. Talk to someone who has a long held belief, present them with all the evidence in the world, and see if they change that belief.
mm,
Most of the time, they're not going to.
yeah,
And that was the situation with Mora here. She believed in Rob. And then they presented something at the very end, and you have a choice. You can potentially look like a fool for not switching and continuing to believe in someone, or you can look like a fool for jumping, and it turns out you were you were conned by these new people.
yeah,
Most people are going to continue on the path that they were on. It's
yeah.
it's just human nature.
Yes, absolutely. The next segment is, the arrival of some of the other players who either reached a certain point in the show or
Mm-hmm.
well, I guess yeah, it must be the next blot if you're working backwards. So
Right.
it's Dorinda, Jam Jam, Kristen, Colton, and Mark. Dorinda says something. That's all I have on Dorinda. She don't know what she said. Uh,
Yeah, the first thing that I have is the question of what would Jam Jam do differently. And so, I mean, there may have been more things there, but whatever they were, I wasn't interested in them. And he says he wished he'd listened to Dorinda and not engaged with Michael, but he didn't have self control. Meanwhile, dumbass Michael in the other room
oh
says,
God.
I didn't have anything to do with Jam Jam getting bumped. And I'm like, yeah, actually, you did indirectly. You weren't there anymore, but you did have something to do with it. And also, just in general principle, shut up, Michael.
Yeah, that's I've written. Unfortunately, we have to cut to
Yeah.
Michael's reactions.
Yeah.
Oh God, we've got more to say on him,
Mm,
unfortunately, as well. There's Colton's here. He recognized he also at least just recognizes, hey, do you know what? Rob played a great game. He says Rob turned
yeah.
on me and it was a game-winning move. Like he's not mad. But here comes Candace. She's not gonna let it go. She's got something to say.
Well,
And
before she
apparently,
says it,
oh
I want to
yeah.
say, I mean, yes, he does admit that with Rob, but he also says, I have no regrets and I'm proud of how I played. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, so you admit to being an idiot, and playing terribly. Okay, you're proud of playing a horrible game. And he acknowledges it wasn't the best way to play to get to the end. All right, so in other words, you should not have played that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that. I should have had my cliche klaxon ready because
Yeah,
players so often do this. Get
right.
eliminated and then say they don't regret anything.
Yeah,
I can't really understand that. Like,
right.
it's okay to say, yeah, I messed up. I shouldn't have done that.
Hmm.
Wish I had done this differently. Like, I think
And he
people
even
just think,
admits, yeah, he even admits the way I was playing, the only chance I had was to get recruited. And it's like, well, then you shouldn't have played that way.
yeah, I guess it's ego or it's hubris to be like,
Hmm.
well, I have no regrets. Like, okay, that's
Yeah,
fine, but
yeah,
you do you.
yeah. But then
So then,
Candace, where you were going, Candace asked
yeah, yeah,
Colton. Yeah.
Candace comes in. You told Rob that I was a traitor, and I think there must be a cut to Portia going because I've just written Portia gasp, and
Oh, I didn't even remember that part. So this was the part that I was most happy was included. I think I mentioned that at the top of the podcast that
yeah,
Rob is like, there are very strict rules. Everything's on
yeah,
camera. I was in an excellent spot. Why would I risk it? It makes no sense.
yes,
And, Colton says he absolutely thought he was working with another faithful. So that goes to, so much for those claims that people are are saying there. And then Colton says Rob said something like that after after Lisa Candace. And Rob, so this is where this person on Instagram is like harping at us about this. Because then Rob says, well, I don't think I said that, but rather Colton was the one who pointed out that Candace was backing up Lisa, which he did say. We saw that on screen.
Yeah.
And so what we have here is just a difference in recollection. We see it all the time. Who said what first?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what leads some people to vote people out, is like, I remember it this way. Well, I remember it that way. And it's like, well, okay, one's going to get voted out. Who brought it up first? I don't know. What we saw on TV, the only evidence we have is what we saw on TV. And what we saw on TV was Colton bringing it up first. We have no contradictory evidence to that other than Colton saying, well, I thought you said this. And Rob's like, no, that's not the way it happened. So I'm going to have to go with what we saw, barring anything else. And in the end, it really doesn't matter. Even if he dropped Candace's name in there, so what? You know, it wasn't to the, in any way to the extent that Candace was suggesting. And Colton reiterates, at no point did I think I was working with a traitor, which makes sense if he's talking about wanting to get recruited. And later he talks about the conversation he had with Lisa. He wanted her to recruit him. Well, if he thought that that Rob was a traitor, then his best bet would have been to work with Rob and get himself recruited. Why would he have even done that to Lisa? So none of the conspiracy makes any sense. And, they even get to, Rob says it felt like they were suggesting, or that Candace was suggesting in the press, like they were cheating. And Candace admits that, saying it kind of felt like that. And I'm like, yeah, because you're a sore loser who didn't believe you could be beaten, but you were. Deal with it. And, Colton says he played with a lot of integrity. He would never cheat in the game. And, Rob says it so happened that Colton was doing things that were helpful, so he supported him. So, yeah, again, I am very glad that this was in there and that Rob and Colton even got to set the record straight, because they couldn't do it up till now because you had Candace, who had been voted out. I mean, I guess Colton could have, but going out there saying all these things, stoking these conspiracies, and it was just total BS.
Yeah, that's literally what I've written. It is all just, Colton admits it's kind of all just BS. It's built, Candace builds it up to, and the editing of the reunion itself builds it up to, oh, we're going to get this confrontation, this reveal. Candace is going to reveal the truth. And actually, it's just sort of Colton and Rob being like, well, it's not really what we said, and I think you said it first. I don't think I did say it first. And like you said, even if Rob did say it first, I don't care.
Right.
He's a traitor. That's the game. I don't care.
I mean, yeah, that's even if he mentioned her name, that's a lot different than what Candace suggested, and what, even worse, other people online have suggested, which was Rob basically pulled Colton aside and said, I'm a traitor. I know that Candace is a traitor. Let's go after her.
Yeah. Colton says that Rob just said, well, Lisa's going to get banished next. Candace is next.
Yeah.
That's it. A big deal.
Which, again, we're not even sure that's the way it happened.
Yeah. There's also Andy. Sorry.
Well, then Colton wanted to get recruited, which is why he made the suggestion/threat to Lisa.
Yeah.
And so, that goes back to, again, if he wanted to get recruited. We know this. It was, he said it ever since then. He has not wavered on this point one bit. If that's the case and he knew he was working with a traitor, well, then you just vote out Lisa, which was the plan anyway, and then get recruited. There's no, or vote out Lisa and then Candace. He didn't need to go and make this threat to Lisa. Um, but this then leads to, I think, a question you were just going to mention that Andy brings up.
Yeah, just that, Andy steps in and asks a couple of things like,
Hmm.
yeah, Colton, what was your plan when you told Lisa you knew she was a
Hmm.
traitor? And he also asked Lisa, why didn't you tell the others this? And Lisa's just sort of like, I don't know, lol.
Yeah, I thought I'd screw it up somehow. And I'm like, oh, I thought you were the iconic traitor, but you couldn't even tell a story straight by your own admission.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, boy, you are brilliant. That you are just the best ever, Lisa. But then of
Yeah.
course she turns it immediate. Well, we see as it immediately. Who knows? We have heard rumors about this whole exchange that's coming up here, and I don't know whether or
Mm.
not they're true. That she uh, brings up that hostage was an odd choice of word for Colton to use. And he points out, well, she said that she wanted to slit his fucking throat. So that was an interesting choice, too. And then he starts to say, but in the context of the game, and she just jumps on him and says, I can say whatever I want, or words to that effect. And I'm like, you know what I really hate about this? She's making me take Colton's side.
Yeah.
Because he's right. This whole game, we joke about it on the podcast. Like, I'll make a comment about, oh, he wanted to murder one of the women. I'm like, I hope nobody takes that out of context and posts it somewhere. Like, the whole game has language about murder and death
Yeah.
and killing and slitting throats and cutting off heads and all of that. It's not surprising that Colton used the word, I want to take you hostage in that situation, or that Lisa said, I want to slit his fucking throat. Both of those are acceptable in this game, only in this game. Well,
Yeah.
and other similar games. But yeah, and for her to try to make a big deal out of this, this is clearly the point where she, according to rumors online, brought up his outside the game issues.
Okay.
And tried to somehow connect it to his stalking and things like that.
Mm.
I'm sure that's the part that was edited out, but they left
Yes.
this in. And Colton says talks about his. I think there may have been. Was there a question directed at him about how
I think
his
Andy
outside
just
life came
asks
into it?
him,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
because
and
he
he
says
talks
he's
about he's
he's
changed, he's
grown since
grown.
then. He's changed. He's put in so much work. And then Colton goes back to saying stupid things again because he says he didn't think playing Traitors would be linked to one of the darkest moments in his life. Well, then you're dumb. Yeah, you're coming onto a national television show. Of course, it's going to be linked to it.
Yeah.
You were national news. You still are.
Yeah.
If you wanted to make sure this didn't come back to haunt you, stay off the TV.
Yeah. I guess like Eric, naive. And
Yeah.
I hadn't heard rumors about stuff being edited out, but it
Oh,
absolutely doesn't
supposedly he
surprise
stormed
me.
off.
Okay. Because even reading between the lines of what we did
Hmm.
see, I could tell the way that Lisa was framing it. Like, what did you mean? Why did you use
Yeah.
the? I thought, oh, she's trying to dig at something more
Yeah.
here. Uh, uh, yeah, so I got the impression there's something she's trying to imply, and that's probably now why looks upset. And I mean, I don't really feel sorry for Colton, but
Right.
uh,
I mean, I don't feel sorry for him,
but it was
but
just
there
a
was no
sort of
need for Lisa
dumb.
to. I mean, it was a dumb accusation. There are many things you can say about Colton, okay, without bringing that up.
Yeah,
It was, and then for her also to say, I can say whatever I want, but you can't.
yeah.
Just, shut up,
Again,
Lisa. Shut
I,
up, Lisa. You know what? Let's make a compromise. Both of you shut up.
it just like Candace. I think it just speaks to the show that Lisa is most known for. It's
Hmm.
Housewives, it's Housewives Reunion,
She's
it's
not just a housewife. How dare you?
oh sorry, yeah. Yes, of course, how foolish.
Hmm.
It's all about throwing shade and creating arguments and creating those big moments.
Yeah.
no matter how ridiculous they are.
Hmm.
And this just isn't really the show for that, for me. From here, they move on to talk about the Black Banquet and another kind of conversation I just don't really care about. Like, was it a kiss, an air kiss? Was it a real kiss? Let's recreate it. Ha ha ha. I just sort of thought, is this the biggest thing we can talk about? Like,
I mean,
one of them's
yeah,
going to say it was, one of them's going to say it wasn't.
I
Just show
do
us the
like, yeah.
footage.
I mean, well, you probably couldn't tell because I mean, Jam Jam says what I thought. He leaned in, and as he said, maybe it was his own inertia that brought him there. Plus, he has that puffy beard, so it's quite possible that I mean, and her lips are big enough that, and I think they got bigger. I swear, when they showed clips from the show and clips from the reunion, that her lips have enlarged again. Um, and people may say, oh, it's not right to make fun of someone's appearance. She did that to herself. Those are not natural. I'm sorry. So she made that choice. I can make the choice to laugh at them. But and I mean, Andy even said it was, her most well-known feature caused her to lose, so Andy even said that.
Yeah.
But I think what happened was, yeah, she leaned in and his beard was, touched. So he felt it. Like if I touch my beard, even with a very short, I could feel it, but
Yeah.
like maybe she didn't notice it. So, okay, good. We got that done. They spent way too much time on it.
Yeah. And Andy moves on to ask Lisa about her
Yes.
choice to wear the amulet. And
And Jam Jam
echoing,
immediately says she shouldn't have. So he's right about that. I mean, it's just that one line, she shouldn't have. And then, yeah, Andy says, well, knowing it led to your banishment, what do you think of it? And because Lisa's dumb, she says she loves the choice and wouldn't change it for the world. She
yeah,
just cared about wearing her dress and making it to week 7 so she could do that. And Andy's like, oh, yeah, I love it that the housewives are just about wearing their outfits. People wonder, why do you get annoyed at the housewives? This is why. Okay? You have a perfect summary right here. Play the damn game. To hell with your stupid outfits.
yeah,
Like, just stop it. You're literally admitting we only came on. Well, it's her in this case, but we've heard it from others earlier too. This is not the first time. She just wanted to make it to the black banquet so she could wear her outfit, and then who cares? Don't friggin' come in here and say I'm going to be the most iconic traitor, and then just talk about your dress. Just stop it. This is why we find it incredibly annoying.
yeah. And it was just an echo of Colton's I wouldn't regret anything to say I
Yes.
wouldn't change that choice. Like, huh? Even if it could have given you another few episodes, even if you only wanted to show off your outfits, you didn't
Right.
want to stay a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
But and also you can do both, you know. You can come on and show off your cool outfits and play the game, like get into the game and think about how to play it really well. You
Yeah.
you could do all of those things, but
I mean,
yeah,
there there
I find this
have
very
been
frustrating.
there have been a couple of housewives who wanted to play the game and tried and did. So it just, I don't want to tar everyone with the same brush, but as a whole, as a group, if we counted down all of the different housewives, that's a fairly small percentage.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot more of them have talked about their dresses and their looks than about the game. So
Yes.
there's a reason that we bring this up and talk about how the housewives their presence there just changes the type of game it is. And I
Yeah.
know, look, I know there are some people who like that. I understand it. Okay? There's a guy who's right now getting mad at me on Chat BCC because I said that the housewives don't bring the good kind of drama. If you want that, go look at the international seasons. And he got all upset about it and condescending. And it's like, look, I understand if you want to watch it, fine, go watch it. Go watch the housewives. I'm not gonna criticize you for that. I'm just saying that I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here for. We get to. He literally said, maybe you're hurting the enjoyment of others by saying this. I'm like, well, I'm not going to withhold my opinion just because you don't like it. Scroll past me or I'll block you. And so it's like this is a people who are listening and watching either prefer strategy and analysis or like both. We've heard from both. There are not too many people here who are like, let's tune in to see what David and Matthew think about the dress that Lisa was wearing.
What? I thought
Yeah,
that's what we were here to talk about.
I know
Oh,
it's
there goes 10
shocking.
pages of my notes.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to share our opinions about that matter, and I feel like I'm defending myself to an audience that doesn't really need that defense, but I just had to get it off my chest.
I understand. There's a little bit of time for Kristen here. It's fairly unimportant. She talks to Candace. She talks about how Candace didn't acknowledge her as one of the Bravo girls. She's like, "Hey, I'm in a
Oh
Bravo
yeah,
show too." Okay. Like,
yeah,
I just thought there's so many more interesting things you could have asked Kristen about.
yeah. That
Like,
was like the only appearance. Now that you mentioned it, I think that was like Kristen's only words
yeah.
was that. I'm like, oh,
Like,
okay.
ask Kristen about her suspicion of Eric and
Hmm.
the fact that she told Eric that, and that's pretty much what led to your murder. How do you feel about that? What would you? But instead, it's just like talk about Candace some more.
And
Uh,
the thing is, these are production decisions too, because
oh yeah,
I think it was Dorinda posted on social media that this was a 6 hour. This reunion in whole took 6 hours. Now, I'm
yeah,
sure some of that was, uh, you know, uh, costuming and makeup and getting in position and
yeah,
everything
yeah.
else, and maybe a break for lunch. Who knows? But maybe some smoked salmon, which does come up in a little bit. But the the still they had a lot of footage to edit down, and they chose to only leave Kristen with this, and that's
Yeah,
just kind of pathetic.
yeah, it sucks. There's another listener question that Andy brings up. Why
Mm.
didn't Candace's two votes for Rob make the other suspicious? And I'm like, oh, okay, right, this is more interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
like let's talk about that. Mark admits it's his biggest regret. He's like, yeah,
Hmm.
actually, how, that was dumb. Like we should have paid
Yeah.
attention to that. That's annoying. There's, there's
He says,
I'm
I know
laughing.
what you're going to say. Rob is like a cat, and then they play the meow clip, which I'm
Is
waiting. That's the GIF I was thinking about last time, was the one that finally got approved after 2 weeks and has like hundreds of uses already in addition to the egg one. Uh, but yeah, Rob's like a cat and always lands on his feet.
there's well, there's that, and there's what follows it. So I laugh so much at Mark talking about. He talks about the mission where he's like, "Oh yeah, there was also that mission where Candace, really pushed for Johnny to get a shield,
Oh yeah,
and they cut. I didn't even realize that Johnny and Tara were still with us on
yeah,
the screen. They just cut to the two of those in Milan, like
yeah,
just staring in silence, like grinning up at this. It was just the funniest editing of those two, like
yeah,
the skating twins smiling away.
yeah.
Um, and uh,
Yeah, and Candace
also
is like,
just
well, that wasn't anything. That wasn't anything. And they're like, yeah, but we didn't know that. It looked like something, and that's,
yeah,
you know. But yeah, and Mark continues. He stayed cool as a cucumber. And Natalie says they were not savvy enough to
yeah,
question their loyalties.
yeah,
And there was always something else. I did like what Mark brought up. There was always something else that kept coming up.
right,
And now part of that, you got to give credit to Rob. Rob made sure there was always something else coming up. I can't go back and pinpoint, but I know there were times when he would make sure people were pointed in a certain direction, and
yeah,
some of it was just the typical faithfuls pointing themselves in a different direction. But
yeah,
yeah, clues, that's the thing about the show. Clues are going to be missed, and things that aren't clues are going to be picked up on.
yeah. And there's always recency bias, which we talk
Hmm.
about. Yeah, something does seem important sometimes to a couple of players.
Right,
24 hours later, they've moved on. Something else
right.
happened that's taken everyone's attention away. And
Yeah, and then Natalie, I think, is an outgrowth of this discussion. Natalie says she comes to these games to win, but Tara and Johnny didn't. They didn't come to win, and Johnny apologizes.
yeah,
But
yeah,
she's right, and that is the aspect of this game, that you have some people who come to win, some people to show off their dresses, and some to promote the Olympics, and there's a whole different host of reasons, which is funny because we hear that all the time. We'll post a clip, we'll post, something, and they'll be like, well, that person wasn't there to win. Okay. It especially happened with Mora this time. She wasn't there, which I still disagree with. I think she was there to win, but she wasn't there to win. She was just there to get exposure. That doesn't change that she made bad moves in the game or anyone
Yeah.
else, not to focus on her. If you make bad moves in the game, we're going to analyze it as a game. If you want to say to yourself, it doesn't matter because they were just there for exposure, fine. But that's not an argument you can level to say it wasn't a bad move. It was still a bad move. You just don't think it was a big deal. Fine. Shrug, move on, scroll past. I don't care.
Yeah, and I also don't agree that Mora was only there
Right.
to have exposure and show off her
Yeah.
outfits because, like, she, as poor as she was at the game, she was really anguished by it. You could see
Right.
that in her confessionals.
Right.
She was so not conflicted because she was always going to stick with Raw, but she was very aware that she wasn't playing well, didn't have a clue what
Right.
was going on, was freaking out about the end. And, her response at the end proves she really thought she was about to win, and she thought she had it, and she was
Yeah.
devastated. She wasn't just like, well, you got me.
Right.
Showed off my outfits for 12 episodes. That like
Right.
yeah, she was gutted to lose. So, uh, yeah, there's yeah, well, they're talking about Natalie's banishment,
Hmm.
and she's like you said, she's kind of a bit annoyed with Johnny and Tara,
Yeah.
and Johnny apologizing. Oh, there's also just this moment here, by the way, when Natalie's speaking. I'm probably going back a little. When Natalie is talking about Rob and how they didn't pay attention, she's like, "Yeah,
Hmm.
we didn't pay attention to the hints that Candace tried to leave," and Candace is like, "Thank you," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"God, Candace, like, give it a rest, like, just."
Well, she's got to, it's like the one compliment she's gotten. So, she's got to definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah, like just smile and shrug. Just be like,
Hmm.
"Hey, I tried my best." Yeah,
Yeah.
like
No,
I
that's
found
not
it really exhausting.
possible.
Uh, Beyond this, everyone else arrives, all the other
Yes.
cast members,
Yeah, I
and I
started to write
thought,
down the names and then I realized, oh, that's everybody. Okay.
just
Yeah.
yeah,
Once I saw Portia, I'm like, oh, okay, that's everyone.
yeah, and I also thought, oh my God, there are still 30 minutes left.
Yeah.
And that's bad because that means there's way too much opportunity for Michael Rapaport to speak.
Yes. Yes.
And they do talk about breakfast and the salmon and the
Yes.
boiled
Yes.
eggs. It's very important things.
See,
And
now what's interesting is I have seen people claim they actually eat breakfast at their hotel and then they're brought
yeah,
in, and the breakfast they get there is kind of a fake breakfast. But
and
the
I don't
way
think it
people are
is.
talking, they're like, well, salmon is the only meat that's there. And then there's those
Yeah.
boiled eggs, and that's all there is. So the way they're talking, I don't know that that's the truth. And I'm not sure where they got. I mean, we'd have to hear from actual US traders players to know
Yeah.
for certain.
Or
Um,
even if they do eat in the hotel, which I can imagine, like
mhm.
me, they're all secluded, they're kept in the rooms, they're
Right,
chaperoned at all times. Okay, maybe they send some food up to their. I mean,
right.
they're staying in like a Marriott hotel. It's an
Yeah,
Inverness, like it's not a 5-star,
right.
like Hilton resort. I'm sure maybe they are sent a simple breakfast up to the rooms, but
Yeah.
actually, by the time that's done and they all get in the cars and it's the 45-minute drive,
Hmm.
it's actually probably like 2 or 3 hours later until they're actually in the breakfast room filming. I would be hungry again. So, like, I understand you want some sustenance at that point.
Yeah.
So, I get the emphasis on the food.
Yes. So maybe some of them can, smuggle in some Acme smoked fish. That. So
Yes, not sponsors of the podcast by any means, but
no.
supporters in a way of the
I
podcast.
mean, the first people who ever, sent me something, for the
Yeah,
podcast. So
there you go. Shout out to them.
yes.
The Portia's here. Portia talks about her banishment and how she was horrified that Lisa turned on her. A housewife came for her, and she says she went home and smashed all of the lipsticks Lisa sent her. So I get like Lisa must have had a lipstick cosmetic line, and Lisa just goes, "That's all right. It went out of business anyway."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It was that was kind of funny. I think that was Portia being performative because what are the odds she really smashed them all, put them into a Ziploc bag, and
Yeah.
saved them for 8 months or however long it's been.
Yeah,
Like, did you really? Or were you like, ooh, these are Lisa Rinna things. I can bring them and talk about them now. I'll smash them now. I think it's a lot more likely that that's what she did.
yes. I also, Portia wasn't in the show for long, but kind of enjoyed her in the reunion. I was like, she's fun. She's making me laugh. Like,
She's more fun than Dorinda was, who went out in the same position last time. But I'll have
yes.
some more thoughts because, yeah, then there's like some dumb argument between Portia and Candace about whether or not Michael said to target the housewife. And
Oh
this just
yeah.
went on for way too
Oh
long.
God, yeah.
And then there were more housewife arguments. That's what I wrote. More housewife arguments. Portia tried to explain her saying that she killed Ian and like, well, I was putting myself into the mindset. And what I said was, it's like, whatever. No, that's not what you said. Maybe it's what you intended to say. It is not what you said. And so just, we don't need to hear this. Who cares? Uh,
And, and in the middle of all this, hilariously, Donna speaks up again and is like, "Well,
yeah.
Portia, you did say I killed you." Like,
Yes.
this is so funny that Donna
Yeah.
Kelsey is like stepping into this housewives
And
argument.
she's like the
Just-
fact checker here. Every once in a while, she doesn't say much, but once in a while, she just throws that in there.
yeah, but I kind of was on Portia's side a little. Like, I understand why she's annoyed at Candace. She's like, "You said that Michael said this thing
Right.
he didn't say, and that made me look like an idiot." Like, I'd be annoyed at Candace too. And of course, Candace is like, "That I didn't say that. That's not what happened." And I'm like,
Well,
"No,
no,
you
Candace,
actually,
I think Candace admitted it. She was like, well, yeah, when you called me out in the middle of the kitchen with a bunch of other people, of course I had to lie.
yeah." But I was like, "Oh,
So it's kind of funny that it's okay for her to lie in
right."
that situation, but it's not okay for Rob to play the game in his situation.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the word? What's the word for that I'm looking
Does
for?
it
Oh
start with
yeah,
an H?
hypocrite. Yes.
We've also got Caroline here, who I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Remember, I had utterly forgotten her in the
Yes.
last podcast episode. Now I remember her. She talks about being mad at Lisa, more housewife fighting back and forth. Lisa makes up some weird BS about I was trying to catch the secret traitor, and that's why I did something. I honestly
Yeah.
couldn't even follow what the
I
hell they
didn't
were
even
talking
I
about.
literally didn't take any notes on this conversation. The next note I have was the Love Highland fake
Oh
promo.
God, yeah.
I was like, okay, stupid Love Highland fake promo. Let's move on.
Yeah, like I found it a little bit. I was like, oh, it's kind of funny,
A
bunch of
tiny bit
clips,
amusing. Um, yeah,
just
but then it
everyone
was
thirsting over Rob, and
yeah,
yeah, like I giggled a little.
yeah,
I didn't. They then do another couple of them in the episode. I'm like,
right.
okay, the joke's done now. Like that one was fine. You don't need to do other
I feel
fake
like,
ones now.
well, we'll have to get to when I get to my notes on that. I feel like what I remember was I actually enjoyed the others more, but we'll have to get to my notes for me to remember for sure. Because
Okay.
then they go to Steven, who I'm like, oh yeah, Steven was in this game.
Yeah.
And he said part of his strategy was to take charge in the missions, but step back in the castle. Okay, well, I guess that's why I don't remember you because I don't
Yeah.
remember anything you did at this point. And it's like, next year someone's going to mention Steven, and I'm going to be like, Steven, who the hell is
Yeah.
Steven? What are you
Who's that
talking
guy?
about?
Yeah, and at the same time, as Steven is saying this, there's a shot of Ron, and I'm like,
Hmm.
I didn't even know Ron was like I remember Ron in the show, but I
Yeah.
was like, I didn't even know he was here. Like they haven't given him any screen time in this
Well,
reunion.
I mean, Ron said he wanted to come into the reunion and say his thoughts and read out, his thoughts on everyone. And there were a lot of people online saying, "Oh yeah, I can't wait to see it." And I responded to them, I'm like, "You're not going to see it. You're
Yeah,
never
they're not
going to
going to
see it.
show.
They're
Yeah,
not going to show it. They have told Ron to stop saying these things on social media and in interviews and in his comedy act. Production completely controls this. This is an edited show. You are not going to see it." And then
yeah,
some other people were like, well, I think it's more about him getting to say it than us seeing it. I'm like, well, okay, maybe.
okay.
But
For the 20 people in the room, okay.
right. Okay, he gets to say it. And we're never going to see it until maybe when his contract is up, he'll start talking more about it when they don't have control over him anymore.
Mm.
Or maybe by that time, nobody's going to care because, he'll just have his comedy career, and that'll be it. And this will be a blip on his past radar, Traitor. And and he can move on hopefully, and because yeah, a lot of what he said, yeah. So he barely gets to say anything this whole time. Unfortunately, we know who we go to next.
If it's Dorinda, I have not written anything
No,
about it. My
no,
next
Michael.
note is about Monet Exchange, so.
Oh, I forgot about Monet. I forgot. Yeah, what did
Oh,
Monet say?
I know who you're gonna come to. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
just I mean, it's not that important, but
right,
I like Monet because I watched
right.
the Drag Race shows, and so she talks about her murder, and yeah, it's basically because she told Candace she suspected Lisa. We knew that,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
and
I remember that. And
yeah, she does talk about Drag Race and says, it's a competitive show. It's not
yeah,
really a strategic show. Sometimes there's a little
yeah.
chance to be strategic on Drag Race and again sort of backstab a
Well, then I
fellow
don't remember who it was
queen
because I
who's
didn't write it down. But it was one of the women gamers, Tiffany or Natalie, I don't remember which, saying I basically consider the people from Drag Race to be gamers,
I
you
think
know?
it's Tiffany. Yeah.
And I said
I
that.
wouldn't.
I said that earlier in this podcast, at the beginning of the podcast. I was like, well, and the gamers talk about this, and I'm including Monet as one of the gamers here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, again, it's Drag Race is not particularly strategic, but it is a competition, and you are doing whatever you can to
Right.
progress through stages. And sometimes, particularly on the All Stars format,
Hmm.
there's elements of like vote saving other queens, saving people from
Right.
elimination, doing votes, giving people points. There's a point system. So there kind of is a bit of
Well, and
strategy
even
about it.
I
So
I have not watched Drag Race, but even American Idol. I used to do a Y blank Lost on American Idol, and people were
mm,
like, "Wait, how can you do Y blank Lost on American Idol when it's just singing?" Well, because it's not singing; it's also strategy, especially in the early rounds. You have to differentiate yourself
yeah,
from
yeah,
everyone else.
right.
And so, way back when Jennifer Hudson, I
Yeah,
think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, when she was voted out, and she is clearly I mean, she was voted out very early.
yeah,
When
yeah.
she was voted out, I posted my article at the time about why she lost. And part of it was she didn't differentiate herself from several other singers who
Mm,
had similar looks or similar songs or similar styles. She did not make herself stand out enough. It's not,
mhm.
it's truly like the music business. It's not just enough to have a good voice. You have to have other things going for you.
Yeah,
And that article, because everyone was so surprised that she got voted out, that article, that was the one I think I told you, it broke the server that, my website was hosted on. And it was because it popped up onto the top of the Google News chart or something like that.
yeah,
Because it's such a simple title, Why Jennifer Hudson Lost. And so yeah, there is strategy in these shows. It's not all strategy. You're not going to win if you're a terrible singer in most cases, but like you need to know the audience. Like if you're a country singer, play up the country. The country audience loved it. Now I haven't watched it in a long time, American Idol. So this is back in the day. Maybe it's still the same. The country audience loved to vote for their own. Play it up. Those
yeah,
sorts of things. So I imagine on Drag Race, it's something similar. You need to differentiate yourself. There
yeah,
is
yeah,
strategy there, even if it's not obvious strategy.
yeah,
Plus, I do think most of the Drag Race participants who end up on this show do it because they want to play a game like this. And Monet was definitely like that.
yeah.
And so to, bring this after this diversion there, this tangent, bring it all the way back to Monet. Yeah, it was. What did Monet say? Something about how, yes, you should not have gotten rid of me. I could have been your ally. I could have been feeding you information. And Candace had to admit that Monet was right.
Yeah, yeah. And Monet is a Survivor fan and yeah,
Right.
watches these competitive strategy shows and I feel like the Drag Race queens haven't made as much of an impact on the Traitors
No,
as a franchise as they
they,
could have. But Bob the drag queen's probably the exception to that, but even Bob didn't actually last that long. Just
no,
he's just got such a huge personality that he does the podcast now, but
right. Which,
it's
yeah,
just a
clearly was
shame.
based on strategy. That's why they chose Bob and Rob.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but and this is a problem. And I think, was it the first or the second drag race person? Was there one in the first
I
season?
think no, it was only the
Yeah.
second season, and I think they were
And
like first banished.
right. And they called out implicit bias and some other
Yeah,
things like,
yeah,
and when there's only one drag race person on every season, I think I mentioned this earlier in the season, it makes it so much more difficult for them
yeah,
because it
yeah,
is easier to single them out on purpose or by accident. And I do think if you've got multiple gamers, if you've got multiple housewives, put at least a couple people from Drag Race.
yeah, yeah.
Get
I am here for that. Yes.
so yeah, that's what I think. Don't make it the token Drag Race person. At least put a
Yeah.
couple.
Yeah. And of course, we've talked so much about this segment because we're delaying the
Yes.
inevitable Michael segment. So he gets his screen time. Yeah, I've kind of just written he yells and swears about some stuff. He talks
Yeah,
about his integrity.
he says Dolores and his wife told him to shut up. He should have listened. Um, you know, he and Portia get into it, and this was before the game. They that was the advice they gave him. He and Portia get into it, and he acts like the total douchebag he is, cutting her off, telling her not to speak, going, clip it, clip it.
Oh my
I'm
God,
speaking,
yeah.
you're not. Clip it. Just shut up, shut up. Just, the other people are visibly disturbed by the way he is acting.
Yeah.
It takes us back to the castle. This is what we talk about. People are like, "Oh, Michael's entertaining." No, Michael's not fucking entertaining. He's an asshole.
Yeah, he's
I'm
just
sorry if I just
horrible.
got this video bumped up to R-rated or something, but he's he's not fun to watch, and this is why he made so many people there upset, and he did it worse in the castle. And so he doesn't stop. Even Andy tried to get them to move on. And I wish they would have literally just cut out all of Michael. You cut out almost all of Kristen. You cut out almost all of Ron. Cut out Michael. We didn't need to see him. But then Andy asks a question of Michael. I'm like, oh God, really more? Like, do you wish you hadn't been so loud and outspoken? And I'm like, well, I do. Many of us do. But of course, Michael's like, no, I put on a good show. No, you didn't put on a good show. You
Yeah.
ruined the first part of this show. As we have talked about, it got so much better when he left.
Yeah. He's just, amongst his many flaws, in my opinion, he's so utterly unaware because he has the nerve to say to Portia, "You need to figure out a way to use your words." And
Yes.
Portia's like, "Me?"
Yeah. Right.
And then he just does his like, "When I'm speaking, you're not speaking." And by the way, what annoys me about Andy here,
Mm.
and in general, like Andy Cohen, the nerve of him to interrupt and be like, "Hey, it's not a Housewives reunion,"
Yeah.
and I'm sort of like, well, maybe don't rile everyone up and bring Michael Rapaport on your
Right.
show and then tell them to pipe down. Like,
Right.
not that Andy Cohen's in charge of this whole reunion, but he's the voice of
Yes.
production. So like, don't tell them
Yes.
you stop shouting at each other. Like, well, what did you expect was going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, at some point during either this discussion or the next one, they cut to an image of Johnny and Tara. And I'm not sure when it was. And they just have that. Let me see if I can get an image there. And it's an image of Tara being like, oh my God, what is going on here?
yeah,
And so,
because Michael just comes for say something about Johnny here, and
well, yeah,
I don't.
first we move into the Michael Colton argument. And Michael says he
Well,
feels bad about it. He reached out to him, and this is where he goes back into BS. As much as I talk trash, I don't like to be disrespectful or hurt feelings. I'm like, what? What utter bullshit? Literally everything you say in real life 100% disproves that. All of the things that people like us were complaining about, why he never should have been on the show, his racist comments, his other things that he said. Really? Those are not meant to be disrespectful or hurt feelings? Yes,
yeah,
they are. That is what you want to do. Don't sit there and deny it. And then, that's when he makes a snide comment about Johnny, and Johnny tries to respond because I think what he was saying is Johnny should not have said something at the round table when there was that whole exchange with Michael going on. Johnny tries to respond, but then Michael pulls the same crap he did to Portia. When I'm speaking, you're not speaking. Clip, clip, clip. And it's like, okay, it's bad enough the man is on Zoom and can't immediately intervene.
Yeah.
But for Michael to continue to do that, I'm not here to hurt feelings or be disrespectful, but I'm going to be completely disrespectful to multiple people here. And it's just, it was cut that man out. Just we need a Michael Colton-less or Michael-less edit of this show and especially of this reunion.
My final note on Michael is just, what the fuck is wrong with this man? I don't know if I'm ever going to get an answer to that.
Yeah.
I think luckily we move on to Rob C.
Well, first Colton says, I played the game as a game, not anything not game related was off limits. So he was, which was the reaction to what Michael said and what he thought it meant and things like that. And I will say Colton did play the game as a game. I will also say if I were Colton, I would want anything not game related to be off limits too. Not that aspect of it that he was talking about, but all the other stuff that he was talking about earlier. But also he never should have been invited in this game. Although, again, we see why Michael is even worse than Colton.
Oh, absolutely. Rob C is,
yes,
again,
hallelujah.
I'm like, oh, okay. He's just not been. He gets his moment, thank goodness.
Right.
And it's pretty short, which is a shame, but he says he feels solid about his participation to never take part in a conga line.
Yes.
He says he knew it was sus. He's like, well, everybody was that night. Everyone was devastated about Portia's banishment. Suddenly, they were doing a conga line around the castle. I thought it was interesting what he said about his comparison between the Traitors and Survivor. He's saying this is much more of a mind F, he calls it. You're in the dark so much in the Traitors. He's like, at least in Survivor, you kind of know the lay of the land. You know,
right.
I mean, I'm sure there are conversations you don't hear, and you don't know maybe about secret deals that people have struck and so on, and that people can keep secret. But he's like, this is a whole different level of mind mind trickery, mind effery. Poor Ian also gets a tiny moment of screen time. I'm kind of annoyed. Ian seems really sweet, and I know nothing about him. I just didn't get the chance to see him. So that's I would love for them to do the
appreciates having been called a genius. That was basically it. Yeah, and that's the thing. If Ian were a housewife, he'd be grabbing his moments of fame here, like the early voted out housewives do. But no, he's just like, oh, I appreciate being called a genius, and wish I could have stayed.
Yeah, I'm like, bring him back next season. Like, that's more interesting. I want to see that.
Yeah.
I don't need Dorinda to come back again. Like, and do
or
absolutely
Portia.
Nothing interesting.
I'm worried. I'm worried it's going to be Portia. I don't know.
They have another silly clip montage.
This was not one syndrome. This was not the one I thought was kind of funny about irritable castle syndrome. Okay.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of clips of people talking about feeling like crap, getting irritated.
Now the next part is
they do have my favorite clip of Rob correcting Michael on what the word commiserating means.
Yes.
So I'm glad that made the cut.
The next part is the part that has echoed the most through the universe that I'm kind of in, because Rob C has talked about Jam Jam. And Jam Jam has not been happy about Rob C talking about him this way.
Okay.
And so I was a little surprised, I have to admit, to see Rob continue it and call him a pick-me gamer.
Yeah.
Who goes around saying, well, I'm not strategic like them. Anyone who watched Jam Jam knows, yes, he is strategic, in fact. And he thinks it backfired for Jam Jam. And Jam Jam says, well, I wouldn't call myself that because I don't know what it means. But from the way people reacted here, it doesn't sound good. And and he says Rob was a little more cautious. So Jam Jam was able to connect more with people because Rob was hiding. And it looked like Rob was about to respond, but we don't get to see it. At least that was what it looked like to me.
Okay.
I try to be unbiased observer. I think between the two of them, there's just a massive misunderstanding here. I do
Okay.
think that Jam Jam was excited to see Rob at the beginning and was saying, "Oh my God, look, it's Rob!" Da, da, da. And I think he gave away information about Rob that Rob did not want given away. I think, and maybe I'm being too gracious here, maybe not. I think Jam Jam did it by accident.
Okay.
Should he have? No. But I think he did it by, I don't think his intent was ever to throw Rob under the bus. I
Yeah.
could be wrong. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what's in Jam Jam's mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it certainly did not help Rob. It hurt Rob. We saw people immediately talking about that. And it's one of those things where the order of events is hard to determine. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I hope the two of them make up in the future. I was surprised to see, that there was still a bit of this. They may have been playing it up for all I know for the reunion too. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
And it was interesting to hear Rob point out because from his perspective, he thought Jam Jam sort of deliberately was out to get him.
Hmm.
He points out the problem that you've pointed out on the podcast that, well, when
Yes.
gamers aim to get out other gamers, it just puts the remaining gamers under
Right.
further suspicion. So he's
Hmm.
like, if that's what you were trying to do, it was a really bad idea. Like you just created problems for yourself.
Right.
So
And
yeah, it
Natalie at
reminded
the
me of
end.
that
Yeah.
point. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
That Ron does get a moment of screen time. He talks about how he found it tough to get to know people. He, uh, I, I, I can't quite figure Ron out. I don't know enough about him. I've seen a couple of clips of him doing stand-up
Hmm.
online. He does come across to me as a bit naive as well.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, he was. He barely watched. I mean, I think we talked about it. He barely watched any of the episodes. He even
yeah,
made jokes about that in one of his interviews. Like, I had too much online gaming to do. I watched a couple episodes. I thought it was like, be faithful, be helpful, be kind. So, yeah,
yeah,
he was one
and
of these stars who was recruited, barely did any research, and then was surprised at the game. So, for that, I can't be too easy on him. But he's a nice guy. He didn't deserve the way he was treated. Certainly, he was just naive coming in.
yeah. He did make me laugh when he said, "You guys just talk about Birkin bags way more than I
Yeah.
do."
Yeah.
And Monet's like, "Oh, it seemed like you didn't really want to get to know us," and he's like, "No, no, I just wanted to lay low, watch you guys. Didn't know
Hmm.
what the hell you were talking about." Um, I think Tiffany speaks up a little. I didn't write anything down about it. I didn't think it was
It says it was something about
important.
Rob C and Ian were Tiffany's closest allies, so it made her more cautious when they left.
Yeah,
But then,
yeah,
of course, people turned on her right away. So, yeah, there's not really much to say there. Unfortunately, I would have liked to hear more from Tiffany.
yeah. They have their little fashion segment.
Hmm.
I don't have much to say. They show
Mora wins for too hat to handle, which Andy muffs the delivery. When he does the nominations, he calls it right, but then when he actually says the winner, he calls it too hot to handle. So he
yeah,
muffs the pun
yeah.
there. And yes, so Mora's huge hats. Now, is it that her hats were getting bigger, or was her head like getting smaller the more the game went on? I'm not sure.
I even posted to the podcast Instagram page a funny picture someone's like doctored of one of her hats, just
Oh,
like ridiculously enormous. It's so dumb, but it just made me giggle when I saw it, so I had to share it. I did laugh at her being like, "Oh my God, I won something! See that,
yes.
Rob?" So, I guess that was fun, but
Yeah.
all a bit pointless. I don't have anything to say here really, and they move on to Rob. They sort of circle back to Rob's the winner, and they sort of it seems like a very polite clap. Okay, yeah, he won from some of them,
I
and
mean,
and I would
what
say
we
that
saw were
Johnny
all
and
compliments, at least.
yes,
I mean, so that was good. People were saying it. And then we got some Rob clips. And Rob Sesternino said Rob R played an incredible game.
yeah, yeah,
And, Lisa and Candace had allies, but Rob built an army. Everyone
Yeah.
felt so close to him. He is one of the best to play. So I think that was great, both to see that, to see this is Rob Sesternino, the well-known, at least, to many people, reality TV analyst, you know, saying this about Rob R, I think is very good because there were still people in comments just this morning when I woke up, like arguing, like Rob did nothing. Only people who are his stands think he did anything. So it's like, no, I don't think Rob Sesternino is a Rob R stan.
Mm.
He recognizes, much like we do, he recognizes that he played a good game.
Yeah, like I had no idea who Rob was before this.
Right.
I don't watch Love Island. I have
Yeah.
no investment in this man. My as objective as I can be,
Hmm.
my perception was he played the game really well. I have no
Yeah.
reason to big him up if I don't have to. Like I
Right.
would if I didn't think he was good. And I've watched countless versions of this show now. I've
Hmm.
spent 3 years podcasting about it. I think I'm giving a pretty decent assessment of him
Right.
being a good player. And I
Yeah.
love that Rob C's line that you mentioned. Like I thought that was a great kind of closing line. Candice and Lisa had allies. Rob built an army.
Yeah.
Well said, I
Yeah.
thought. And Andy closes the show with a conga line, and I thought, "Good God, what am I? Is this the show I've spent thousands
Yeah.
of hours podcasting about? Is this what it's come to? Oh God,
Yeah.
that
Rob Sesternino just refused, shakes his head. You can see him off in the corner just shaking his head. I saw a clip of him on Rob Has a Podcast saying, "Yeah, I wish they had a camera on me at the time so they could have seen my reaction," which was just no, but yeah, that was just like digging it into to Rob there at the end.
yes, they do finish with a preview of. I think they did this on the finale too, like a preview of the civilian version that is to come. The castle doors are open to
Was it a
every
preview or an ad
people.
for people
Well,
to
yes,
apply?
sorry. That's yeah. Preview's the wrong word.
Yeah.
A little teaser, a little ads for
Hmm.
the applications, which again are apparently still open. I've
Yeah, they're
heard
open. The web page says open till like March
it's
10th,
like yeah,
maybe.
something like
So there's
that.
not a lot of time. I will say, just so everyone, knows, I was going to apply.
Ooh,
I have not as of yet because I have this nagging knee problem that has not gone away.
uh,
I'm going to physical therapy for it, and it is not getting better right now. If they gave me a physical, which they would, I'm not walking up any hills. I'm
jumping
not
out of
going
a
to be able
helicopter.
to, yeah, lift things and the like. So my hope is that this is the first of many, and that the knee gets better. I mean, it's nagged me on and off for probably 25 years. So it's, this is not a new problem for me here. But yeah, I unfortunately will not be applying to the civilian version. I would love to do it. I just know that, my knee is too weak and it's not going to work out.
Listeners, do we think this is a ruse? David has already
Mm.
been cast and has been sworn to secrecy. I've heard a couple of rumors and people sending me little messages online about, although the casting's not closed, it's certainly in
Hmm.
process. Like they're
Oh, yeah.
already reaching out to people, and that some people have had meetings online, I
Oh,
think,
I'm
with
sure.
casting teams and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. So it's, people, the process is already happening, which is, yes, I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah. Now, the encouraging thing is that the web page says, let me see if I can pull it up here quickly, because even though I haven't applied, I do have it open.
Convenient.
Yes, convenient. Um, it says, we are looking for smart, strategic, everyday people to compete in the ultimate game of trust and treachery. So,
Yeah.
smart, strategic, everyday people. So my first thought on this, and I think I may have mentioned it before, my first thought on this was, oh, good, they're looking for strategic people. But then I was talking to someone else, another fan of the show, and it occurred to me they may be looking for those people because they've already reached out themselves to people who are more like the housewives, like the influencers.
Mm. Yeah.
So my bet is they won't have housewives, obviously, but they will have online influencers who will act very
Yeah.
much like housewives. It is not going to be a full cast of strategic people.
I absolutely agree with that. In fact, Ali F, who's a listener, left a message about this on YouTube, and I know we're going to do our separate Q&A
Mm-hmm.
episode in a few days, but since we're talking about it, I'll throw it in here. So Ali F said, if you played the casting director, you and I, for the upcoming civilian US version, how would you cast it, and what do you think would be an ideal mix of personalities? Of course, we want a lot of smart, strategic people, but I personally don't want a whole season of super fans who know everything about the game. I don't I just don't think that makes interesting TV. Plus, every season needs a few loud and wrong people who have no idea what's going on to make the season work. I hope we do get people who know the game, but I think it would be good to cast people um, for viewers who aren't fans, since it'd be interesting to see characters develop um, and so on. So
So
yeah, what do we think?
so here's the thing. Survivor has transitioned in the past, I don't know, 5+ years, probably more than that. They used to cast a mix like that of clueless people, recruits, and the like. And now it's almost all people who are fans, super
Yeah.
fans in one way or another. Now, there's a lot of definitions of super fans. Some people who came on are like, I'm a super fan. I started watching a year ago and went through all of the Survivor seasons. I'm like, okay, but, I think that you can get fans slash super fans, a whole cast of them who still have enough differing personalities, who
Mm,
still have different views on how to play the game, who can still be funny and clueless and loud and wrong, and yet still be fans and who are there to play.
yeah.
That's what I care about. You understand the game and you're there to play. People can still be very wrong even if they're there to play. We talked about last episode, in the finale episode, they brought on detectives and mystery book writers, and in other international versions, and some of them were still very loud and very wrong, and they drove the action, and it was still fun. You can bring those people on. You don't need to find an influencer who's out there, selling lip gloss. And it's like, oh, this person has 2 million followers. Let's bring them on. I don't know, 2 million is probably too small for them to bring on, but whatever. Um, oh, here's this person who does dance videos. Let's bring them on. Here's this person who got TikTok famous. Whatever. Bring on people who know what the game is, at the very least. Not people like the housewives who are like, oh, I've been invited. I guess I should watch a few episodes. Even Ron Funches, same thing. I don't just want to pick on the housewives. You know, I mean, Michael Rapaport, I hate to bring up his name. He claimed to be a fan. Now, he's a bad example because he was just horrible, but it shows that you can say you're a fan and at least sort of understand the game
Mhm.
while also having a very different personality. Don't bring on Michael Rapaport's, but it just shows there can be, not every super fan is me. Now,
Yeah.
I think I'm fun. I think I have a good personality, but not every super fan is going to be your, a stereotype, an Ian, type of person.
Yeah.
Let's go
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. I mean, I have the same response as you.
Okay.
If I was actually genuinely in charge and I was picking the cast,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would want people who at least understand the game and they're gonna try and play it. They might have different approaches to that,
Mm-hmm.
and um, you need someone to be murdered first, and you need someone to be banished
Right.
first, and even good players go home early. But yeah, I would want my emphasis would be on variety and interesting characters, but at least they all get the game and to
Right.
different extents they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But that's my answer to Ali's question. My
Yeah.
answer to the question, is that who they are going to cast?
No.
Is no.
No.
They are gonna cast, despite
They're gonna.
the advertisement saying
Yeah.
we want strategic smart players. They're gonna cast some people who've never seen the show and don't know what they're doing.
Well, I think
And
the reason they're advertising for strategic smart players is they're not going to find them by looking at TikTok and Instagram.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So they are going out and recruiting the Insta famous people,
Yeah,
and then they need the ones who actually want to play the game to apply themselves.
yes, yes. And like you said, sadly, despite it saying this is for ordinary people, this is
Right,
you don't have to be a celebrity. They are gonna cast influencers and TikTokers
right. Who
who
want to be
actually
celebrities.
who want to be celebrities and are like, Z-list celebrities or
Yeah.
whatever, like who actually are
For
known
Americans, that's
online.
Z list. Yes.
Sorry, yes, sorry, Z-list. And they're some of the cast members are going to be people who have online followings already, and
Right.
that's kind of just the sad way
Oh,
that I
that's
guess
going to be
reality
rough
TV
because
goes.
they're going to have built-in stands online already, and when we're out here criticizing them, those stands are going to jump on us. So just
Yeah,
we'll be prepared for that.
yeah. So I'm looking forward to the season, but I'm kind of bracing myself
Yes,
for
we
being
have
a
to be
little
realistic.
disappointed with the
Yeah,
cast.
yeah,
But we'll see. We'll see.
yes.
Uh,
It won't be the same. It won't be a Traders UK cast.
yeah, yeah,
It won't be a Traders New Zealand cast. It'll,
yeah. Sort
it'll
of
be
somewhere in between.
right, right.
Uh, we have a few things to finish with, but firstly, David, do you have final thoughts on the reunion itself? Overall thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I said this earlier. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be after seeing so many comments from both players right after it happened, and also from others on social media who watched before I did. It could have done with 100% less Michael Rapaport. But then again, all of life could do with 100% less Michael Rapaport. It could also, I know you liked Portia. To me, it could have done with 99% less Portia. It just reminded me of Dorinda trying to get her screen time last year, and now I worry Portia is going to be brought back like
Mm,
Dorinda was. Maybe
yeah.
they will realize, wow, Dorinda was such a huge flop. Let's not do that again. I don't have a lot of faith in the good judgment of Traitors US casting.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Uh,
and then I said this earlier, but just to reiterate, I was glad they left in Candace's stupid allegations that Rob cheated so he and Colton could shoot those down. I know conspiracy nuts are not going to listen, but it's still good. Those were in there. And yes, once again, still blame Candace for making me take Colton's side
yeah.
on something.
Uh, I would echo that, and mostly, I don't mind Portia. She seems more enjoyable to me than Dorinda. Um,
It's a low bar.
my takeaway from the reunion was, like I said, I was really turned off by Candace. I
Yes.
again didn't mind her in the show. Like I
Could have
found
done
her
with
quite entertaining.
99% less Candace, too. Yes.
Yeah, I was really uh, maybe I shouldn't be, but surprised at how bitter she seems at Rob. Like God, get
And
over
that's
it.
for
Yeah.
American people who didn't understand that accent. It was bitter, not better.
Oh yes,
Uh,
sorry. B-I-T-B. Well,
yes.
you know what I meant.
I wanted to make
She was
sure. It
annoying.
sounded like you said how much better she was, and it's like, no, how bitter she was.
Bitter. Yes, that's what. And I've said it before about the reunions. I'll say it again. I just find it as trying to be a Housewives style reunion show.
Yes.
It doesn't help having Andy Cohen be the presenter.
No.
Like, why is he here? Like, can't you just pay Alan Cumming like an extra 100 grand or something? Like, I'm sure you could pay him enough to get him like get Alan here. That's it. I just always find it so bizarre. Like, why are you here, Andy Cohen?
I think that's
It,
just Andy's thing. From what I understand, he hosts the Bravo slash, I guess, Peacock
yeah,
reunion shows, and yeah, there are some things I'm not going to bother complaining about anymore because they're not going to change, and Andy's one of them. It's just like, okay, he's here, we accept that,
yeah,
and it's like, is he good? No, but you know,
yeah. The reunion show just seems like an extension of the things in Traitors US that I don't care about.
right,
So I think it's just I just wish it was a 12 episode season of
Hmm.
actual episodes in the castle, not an 11 episode season plus a reunion where
I mean,
they try and get them to argue
yeah,
with each other and talk about who had a secret romance
yeah. I
that no one
like the
cares about.
idea of a reunion. The idea of a reunion. Like, I'd love it to see a UK reunion or some of the other things like that.
Yeah,
I don't like this format of reunion.
yeah.
It's like the people that I most wanted to hear from, many of them didn't say anything. Tiffany, Ian, Natalie barely said anything. Jam Jam only talked about a couple things. Um, at least Rob got more of his flowers and he got to speak. He got to speak more according to the position he was voted out, Rob C, than
Yeah,
I think anyone else, except maybe
yeah,
Portia.
definitely.
But
Yeah.
that she mostly did that by interjecting herself, you know. Um,
And
so
Michael, of course.
yeah. Um, so yeah.
So we still are not done with season four because we have got our final episode on the season, our listener Q&A episode that we will record
Hmm.
in a few days. So this is time. Send us your thoughts. What did we not talk about? What did we say that you wildly disagree with? Or is there something we forgot about, something we missed, something you've
Actually,
noticed that no one else has?
I prefer the comments like let me see if I can find it. I prefer the comments on our podcasts like the one that said I wasn't prepared for this, who said I just have to drop it and say, David, you have been absolutely on fire this whole season with the witty zingers and hilarious commentary. So I prefer those comments. If anyone wants to write in with those, thank you to editor Danielle Marie for this, and it went on for longer. So, yes, anyone who wants to write those, I'm perfectly happy for those.
That too, that too. If you
Yeah.
want to say nice things,
And they can
that's
say
always
nice
lovely
things
to
about
hear.
you too, Matthew. I'm not just saying about me.
Yeah,
They
me
can
if you
say that
want,
about you too.
mostly
Yeah.
David. David, where can we find you on social media? What are you covering right now?
So I am still all over social media and reality TV podcasting. I'm about 3 days behind on most social media, other than the direct arguments I've been involved in. But I will be right back here in a couple days for the Q&A. So make sure people send in that. We have some ideas. I have not okayed this with Matthew. He may have to cut this out. We have some ideas about some podcasts going forward.
Yep.
I don't know. Should I reveal what the ideas are and see if people like them, or should I keep my mouth shut? What do you think?
You could keep it for the Q&A episode.
Okay, and then that's Matthew's way of saying let's discuss this before you go
No, I
put
mean I
that
think I
out
know
into
what
the
you're going to
universe.
say, but
Yeah,
unless there's a
yeah,
new thing, okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Sorry, I mean it's one of those things I'm just springing on you. But now we've got people interested. See, I'm doing this on purpose. Get people interested. At least the people who listen till the social media promo part. Anyway, yes. And then we will have that. But I also, this is my third podcast in 24 hours, all of which have been, well, this one's creeping up on 2 hours. I don't think it'll quite get there. We'll have to see. But the others were over 2 hours. And because Survivor 50 had its 3 hour premiere on Wednesday, so we had a double Y Blank Lost podcast on RHAP. This was made, it should not have gone this long. But the person who was voted out, the main person who was voted out, went on and did interviews. And I'd swear she was a housewife because she contradicted everything we saw on the show and said, no, that's not how it happened. And so, because the whole point is explaining why the person lost, we had to dig through the things she said and point out how it contradicts what other people said, what we saw, all of that. So yes, you can see the podcast there that is available already. In addition, I am of course doing my TikTok and YouTube videos, which have been for the Traitors US, plus of course Survivor 50. Some for Australian Survivor. I'm sure House of Villains will make a few appearances when I finally get around to watching that. It dropped 3 episodes the same day as the Traitors finale. It's like, are you trying to kill us, Peacock? Really? And I will have 5 mini Y Blank Losts for the maybe I'll shorten it. Maybe I won't do for like Tara and Johnny. Maybe one of them will be why Tara and Johnny lost. Because really, do I need multiples for that? Plus of course why Rob won. And
Yeah.
so I'll have those in the coming days. I need to recover my brain first after all of this. And so you can find me, subscribe. I'm at David Bloomberg TV on all those video sites.
Yeah. And for the podcast, to send your questions and thoughts for our final episode, you can follow on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Traitor Podcast. And on all of those, leave a comment, send a DM, whatever you like. You could also email me at thetradarpodcast@gmail.com. I've already had a couple of emails. You could leave a voice note like Magiker did today at memo.fm/thetradarpodcast. Sometimes it's easier to just speak your thoughts and be heard on the podcast rather than write them down. Some people just want to have a little moment to vent. So go ahead and do that, if it's interesting and useful,
Yeah.
which it always is. And wherever you're listening or watching, please subscribe and follow and leave reviews and star ratings and all of those great things. There are a couple of ways you can support the podcast. Now that we've almost done this whole season, you could visit thetradar.redbubble.com, where there are all sorts of cool merch items, t-shirts, mugs, tote bags, caps, you name it, it's there with different logos and designs on them.
I need this
Send me a
with a logo
question.
on it, please. Can you?
Yes, purple leopard print hat with Trader logo. I'll make it
Yeah.
happen. And if you want to just put in a small donation as a one-off without subscribing to anything, you could visit ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/Matthew Keeley. And a couple of people have done that like in the past 24 hours since the finale episode. So thank you to someone just called Traitor. Traitor says, I've loved your show for years. Thanks for the hours of entertainment. Thank you. Sasha left a donation as well. And Elle left a donation and a comment saying, just finished watching The Irish Traitors because we did a whole season on that.
Yep.
Love listening to your podcast to find out what you and your guests are thinking. I appreciate that you're very tactful and don't make hurtful comments about the contestants. Well, we might have done that a little on this one.
Yeah, but not to anyone who didn't deserve it. Well, probably
Yes.
not to anyone who didn't deserve it.
Yeah, we had good reasons for criticizing some things, but on the
Yes.
non-celebrity versions,
Right.
we're much gentler. So,
Yes.
Elle, I'm glad that you've been enjoying that. And Irish Traitors, if you haven't watched it, I'd recommend it. We did a whole podcast season on it. I interviewed 4 of the contestants from that show. Those interviews are online now, and so people have been watching those and commenting, which is really cool. So thank you, all of the people who've done that. We will be back really soon. We're going to be a few days
Yeah.
Q&A episode. Looking forward to it. Until then, laters, traitors.
And stay traitorous.